Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and I'm here to entertain you. So I hope you will feel entertained by the conclusion of tonight's show. I know it's been an entertaining journey up to the show because we are breaking new ground here on the portal, and I just can't tell you how exciting this all is. Not only to have my guests on tonight, but to be doing what we're doing. And so, without further ado, let me welcome my special guests, Mr. Chris and Cherie Geo, to the show. Welcome, guys.
Thank you for having us, Brent.
Well, it's always my pleasure. It's always amazing to have a chance to sit down and talk with you. You both are incredibly important people to me, not only in a professional level, but on a very personal level. And, it's just been an incredible journey. So I know that you guys are incredibly busy and you've been doing a crazy media loop lately, but, I'm glad you found time for us.
Well, we always have time to step through the paranormal portal, which is exactly what we're going to do tonight. I want to say that we have pretty much taken over the internet. We are streaming on TFR, iHeartRadio, Beyond the Veils YouTube channel, 4 of our Facebook groups and personal pages, Brent Thomas's personal pages. We're literally everywhere because that is how the paranormal spreads throughout if it goes unchecked. And tonight, we're going to make sure to let it go unchecked and let it just spread like a virus through the system.
Wow. How do I top that? That was a great setup.
I do want to say thank you, Brent, because you've been a really close personal friend of mine, and the show that you do here, Paranormal Portal, is just awesome. It is so awesome that I haven't made this announcement yet, but I did want to make this announcement that we are actually going to steal part of your name. And we're going to use btvportal.com as our source for everything BTV. I wanted to, first of all, ask your permission to do that. I've already bought the domain. Everything's already done. But I just wanted to go through the formality of asking.
On air.
Of making sure that that's not stepping on your toes.
No,
On air.
Absolutely not. I'd be honored if you took and put the portal in there. Do I get royalties then? How does this work?
That's what
Well, we were thinking of all these different things like BTV Home, BTV Launch, BTV this, BTV that. So a short domain where people can go and just find all things BTV related, where the base groups are, where the story is, where the film is, where the show is, where TFR stuff is, like literally just one spot for BTV.
Oh, okay.
And I thought BTV Portal, that sounds really good, because what we're doing essentially is BTV is we're trying to create a portal out of the Matrix, and that's the basis of all of our work. So that's where the thought pattern came from first. And I told somebody today, and they go, "You do realize Brent's using the word portal, right?" And I said, "Oh shoot,
That's
It didn't even click to me." So yeah, I wanted to apologize up front for stepping on your toes.
Yeah, well, the beauty of it is that I didn't invent the word, so I guess anybody's able to use it. And I'd be honored to be contributing something to what you're doing on Beyond the Veil. It's been an amazing show on so many levels, and I know it's been a catalyst for so many people to wake up, to come to this new understanding and have a new gnosis, as is a term that you use a lot, and it's a perfect term, to have a new understanding and gnosis of the dynamics of the nature of reality around us. So you guys have been absolutely incredible in that regard, and you've created a community that gives people a place to go that's not intimidating. It's not pious and the traditional religious kind of things. It's a community of people sharing thoughts and raising their vibration together, and it's something that I've been absolutely in awe of, and hopefully in some small way I can emulate that with the portal. So you guys are doing cool things.
Awesome. Well, let's get into some cool things tonight. First of all, let me say, yes, we have been doing a lot of radio this week. I think we're going to be absent for a couple of weeks, so we're going out of town next week. So trying to get as much content out there as possible to keep people entertained and keep people informed. Then we may take a little bit of a hiatus. I don't know what's going to happen when we do go out of town, but we may do some shows. We may not. I don't know what the situation is going to be like, but it's been crazy. Last night we were on with Clyde Lewis, and Clyde is an awesome host. He was totally blown away by the material. The problem is that we had to dumb the material down so much for his audience, not for Clyde. Clyde got it immediately, but for his audience, that it felt like being inside of a little box. And it felt like you need to move around a little bit. You need to, just stretch your arms a little bit. The light needs to shine a little bit brighter. But, the box was just kind of kept at at the same level of the listening audience. And I realized if we're going to start delivering these messages on different shows, then we're going to have to really understand how to properly craft it and ultimately speak to people upon their level. Now, if I can take this away from paranormal for just a moment and get into the topic that we talked about with Clyde yesterday, which was the non-player characters. Now, this meme has just been just taking off over the last couple of days, and it's been used on the left, the far left, who are basically acting like robots. Now, for people that don't know, a non-player character is a manifestation from an artificial intelligence, controlled by an artificial intelligence within a video game. So in World of Warcraft, you have real players who are at the keyboard, and then you run into the non-player characters who give you weapons, who give you power-ups, who give you things like that. But if the system gets infected with a virus, then those non-player characters can start acting in a programmed way, in a way that glitches. The artificial intelligence can start sending syntax errors in the scripts. So one perfect example, and again, I don't want to get too political on the paranormal portal, but one of the examples is recently when they've been calling Donald Trump a racist for the last 2 years, or 3 years actually, and all of a sudden they call Kanye West a dumb Negro. Yeah. That I think was the most revealing, because you can see the scripts being played on people, and people are just taking these scripts in and they don't know what to do with it. So their minds are just being jolted and just being changed. But the idea of non-player characters is something that we've been talking about for quite some time, as we started to really understand the nature of reality, the holographic nature of reality, who we are within the Matrix, and how the Matrix operates. And part of the way that the Matrix operates is it has non-player characters, not only in the third dimension, but I would say that it has it in several of the other dimensions. And when these non-player character entities are infected with a virus, I think that's where some of this demonic possession comes from. That's where these hauntings come from. Some of the hauntings could be, I'm sure you've heard this before, when a house is haunted, it may not necessarily be a spirit that's haunting it, but rather it's an event that's echoing over and over and over and over again within a certain location. And then you have some disembodied entities or programs, or maybe even souls that are trapped on the other side. So as above, so below. But what's actually really interesting is the fact that all this has taken the human consciousness by storm now. Like, there has been an apocalypse. There has been a great revealing. Veils have been dropped from the eyes of consciousness, and the glitches in the Matrix are that much more apparent. The difference in consciousness between organic and non-player character are that much more apparent. And now you start to look at all these ancient texts, like the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, for example, and Thoth talks about the children of light and the children of men. The Bible talks about men and sons of men and makes a big distinction between those two types of consciousness. Hermes Trismegistus talked about the immortals and the dissolvables, two very distinct type of consciousness. Helena Blavatsky talked about those with the divine spark in them and those without the divine spark in them. And so we're really, when we realized, we brought all of this gnosis, as you said earlier, out from inside of ourselves, then started confirming it in all these ancient tablets and texts. The difference is, because we brought the gnosis in from ourselves out, rather than going to these books, we started to automatically put it in modern terminology and modern language so people can understand it. And when we started looking at these ancient texts, we realized they were trying to say the exact same thing, except they didn't have the language to communicate these ideas. Now we have this technological language to communicate to these ideas. So you can look at something like a demon, for example, and say, is this really coming from a demonic dimension, or is this a computer program that is infected with a virus that's running rogue within the system? And you've heard the term ghost in the machine over and over and over again. So we seem to be merging the paranormal with technology. And when you do that, then you start to get a bigger and a better understanding as to how the paranormal works, how the supernatural works, why the supernatural is very real within this matrix, but this matrix is the one thing that is not very real, because it's nothing more than a computer overlay over our consciousness. I know that was a whole lot, but I want to pass it back over to you.
No, that was brilliant, and you know that's absolutely. I resonate completely with all of that, and the terms I think are so accessible, and you're right. It puts it in a way that everybody can understand. You know, sometimes when you dig through these old manuscripts and these old scrolls and et cetera, et cetera. I mean, you're dealing with a language that's, you know, so old and so antiquated, and it's hard to understand how it all relates now. And a lot of times there's, you know, a lot of colloquialisms that are used that don't make sense anymore. So what you guys are doing is amazing. And it's always been my opinion with the paranormal, it's not the hiccups of reality. It's not the glitches. It's not the when reality kind of falls apart for a second. To me, what it is, it's the breadcrumbs demonstrating a dynamic reality that we live in. And it's like the clues, like, look what can happen. Why did that happen? Why did that coffee cup move? Nobody was touching it. Why did it move? Well, you know, what's going on? How is that possible? So it causes a paradigm shift even to, you know, to all people, I believe, at least on some level. And I think that it's incredibly profound. And perhaps that could be one of the reason people experience these things is because they need to be shook out of their paradigms.
Yes, I completely agree with you. And paranormal phenomenon, it's something that's very interesting because it's something that has followed me around my entire life. And even all the way up to the time that we went to Egypt, we had some kind of entity in our house. Mm-hmm. Our housekeeper came over. We didn't tell her anything about it. And she comes up to us and says, "Do you have a ghost in your house?" And I said, "Yeah, we've had one for quite some time." And she said, "Well, something tapped me on the back. I turned around and both of you were upstairs." And she said, "I don't think that it was malevolent. I think that it just wanted to make itself known." And I said, "Yeah, you know, there's some weird stuff going on in the basement." And as a matter of fact, we keep like this big piece of machinery. It's a big dehumidifier that's over the door of this one section of the basement, and we will not go down there. I know we've talked to you before about it. You said put salt there. That seemed to help. My sister came over, and she said the exact same thing. "Do you have a ghost in your house?" I said, "Yeah, I think so." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Well, the cabinet door opened in front of me, and then I heard the chair move in the kitchen. Just last night." And so she didn't say this last night. When she was talking to me, she said that she had seen this the night before when she told me this incident. But what's funny is we've had like people like Jeffrey Seelman try to clear us several times, and sometimes this entity goes away. But this particular thing, whatever it was, would not go away. Once we came back from Egypt, there's been no sign of this thing whatsoever.
At all, like
it's
not
just
a feeling, nothing.
You know, it's left. So
Yeah.
I again, what I think happened in Egypt, and I hope I'm not getting too far ahead of myself, is that we managed to be able to create a portal up to a higher dimension, that we were able to make some system changes. And along with these system changes comes some of the deletion of some of these virus entities that have manifested as a result of the system getting infected with a virus. So as these things are being deleted, I think we're going to find paranormal activity like this, at least malevolent paranormal activity, getting less and less and less. And I think this was a symptom, or not a symptom, a byproduct of all of this, because when we returned, it was completely gone. So I feel like it was deleted from the system, unless since we got back, Cherie has had any more experiences.
No, I haven't. But I was wanting to point out that, you know, I really felt like it was a ghost. It really felt like some kind of ghostly entity, and it really felt like just this tortured soul or something that was stuck here, and for whatever reason wanted to be in our house and in our basement especially. And so I've gone down there probably a couple dozen times since we got back to do laundry and things like that, and I haven't felt it at all. And so I wonder if in the process we allowed an exit to be established for these restless spirits to finally leave this plane of existence and to get out of here. So, I mean, that's a possibility. Another possibility is if it was an NPC ghost, then maybe it's been recycled through the matrix like it's supposed to be, and it no longer is with us. So either way, I'm glad it's gone.
Ghosts in the machine.
Ghosts in the machine, exactly.
Yeah, that was like most episodes of the Portal here. It's like there's ghosts in the machine. But I know that the basement for you, Cherie, was used to be a real issue. Like you'd sprint down and sprint back up. Yeah, it was truly uncomfortable.
This morning I threw a blanket downstairs because she was downstairs doing laundry and she screamed.
Well, it came out of nowhere. I was like, whoa, it almost hit me. I was just about to go up the stairs and here comes this big blanket down these stairs.
Oh,
So
that's crazy. Yeah,
yeah.
that's typical you though, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
typical
Ah.
typical Mr. Geo. That's awesome. But I think you're right. I think that whatever what do you find that your trip to Egypt was transformative in many ways?
On a
Personal level.
physical level, personal level.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it felt like the completion of a 10,000-year-old plan
Yeah.
that we've had to live lifetime after lifetime in order to get to this moment.
Mm-hmm.
So once that completion happened, there was definitely a transformation within the self, because now we're in uncharted territory because we're no longer playing these life loops anymore. We don't know what's coming up. Just to bring the listeners up to speed here, we have been breaking down the nature of reality, which led us to Egypt. And we didn't even know what we were doing in Egypt. But after a series of ayahuasca ceremonies in these temples and watching the third dimension react to what we were doing, for example, a 3-day historic flood happened when we activated the Great Pyramid, and this is documented on video. A windstorm happened after the ritual at the Temple of Hatshepsut, literally on the same day, and it was flipping over boats in the Nile. It knocked down the power lines. We were sitting up in the hotel in the dark as a result of this. We go to Abydos, and it starts raining for the first time in 15 years. There's rain coming down from what we're doing there. One, we could ignore. Two, we can say it's coincidence. Three, it's more than coincidence. There was another event that happened when we went to the Temple of Sekhmet. Somebody came up to Cherie and grabbed her and was kissing her all up and down and hands her the keys to the Temple of Sekhmet and says, Sekhmet wants to see you. Sekhmet wants to see you. And he puts us inside of the temple. And he says, sit, meditate, meditate, meditate. And we did this 20-minute meditation in the Temple of Sekhmet on a Facebook live stream. Now, what happened the day after is, during the meditation, Sekhmet said, look, I'm going to send my lionesses for you, and we're going to do this, but don't screw this up again, which told me that we've done this before, many times before, and we've screwed it up somehow. And what happened is the volcano started erupting in Hawaii. Now, I didn't connect the two, but when we got back, people were saying that there's a ley line that connects the temple of Karnak, which is where Sekhmet's temple is, all the way to the volcano in Hawaii. Now, Pele is also the fire goddess in Hawaii, and she's also Sekhmet in Egypt. So we had a Sekhmet activation taking place, but I don't connect that because it's too far away. If it would have happened in Egypt, then I would have said, okay, this can be connected. But just the fact that people were connecting it while we were gone and connecting the dots when we came back tells me that some people are feeling like there's a connection there. So after all of these activations and manifestations, we went down to the Temple of Isis, did our ayahuasca ceremony there, and we basically remembered, because it wasn't an instruction. It wasn't like Isis instructed us on anything. It was that the goddess Isis was there to kind of help unlock further hidden, suppressed memories within ourselves. And we remembered when we built the pyramid, we remembered how the pyramid was built. We remember what the pyramid was built for. And sure enough, as soon as we went back to Cairo, the pyramid opened up for us, and all 3 chambers too, which the 2 of the chambers have been closed to the public since 2003, the subterranean chamber and the Queen's chamber. There is no footage of the subterranean chamber that exists. And we have the only HD footage that exists. We have HD footage of the Queen's chamber as well. So it was important for us to go to all 3 activation points before we actually did the ritual in the Great Pyramid, in the sarcophagus. So once we got back, that completion and breaking the veil of reality so much, and I'm getting to your question here, breaking the veil of reality so much really did change me. And it's something that I haven't really talked about, but I came back and I fell into a kind of a depressed kind of state, because when you realize just how illusionary the world is, and you break every single veil that there is to break, it comes to the point to where everything becomes stagnant and boring because there's no more journey left. You've broken every single bound. And so it took me a while to reintegrate back into the third dimension after going so far into it. So yeah, there was that change. But afterwards, we started to realize that this artificial intelligence that's up there that we went and did the system restore on actually had a backup plan for when the system restore took place, and a sequence of events that it's trying to do in the meantime in order to stop the reset from fully taking place. Or, I mean, what I've come to realize is that it's a shutdown process that's being initiated. So we crack open the book of Revelation, and I don't know why, it was just totally random, but as we started reading the book of Revelation, which we've been covering on our show over the last few weeks, we realized that this AI's master plan has been written in this book all along, which is to merge all dimensions all together and emerge into this dimension as some kind of God Messiah type of figure, and basically lock the system down, lock the game down. And there was a video game that was there was a computer that was programmed to win video games. Sheree came across this, and it was playing the game of Tetris. And when it realized that it couldn't make any more winning moves, that the next move that it was going to make was going to be a losing move on its part, since it was programmed to win the game at all, no matter what, it wasn't programmed to lose. It chose to freeze the game, pause the game, and it refused to make indefinitely. It refused to make another move. Now, if we can take the as above, so below principle here, then we can see that if computers down here run into that kind of dilemma that something is about to happen and it goes against their programming, which I think we can see in Space Odyssey 2001 by Stanley Kubrick, the HAL computer killed everybody on board, but it didn't do it nefariously, because computers can't act in a positive or negative manner, but rather killed everybody on board because there was a directive in it that said complete the mission, complete the mission, complete the mission at all costs, including killing the people on board. So if this is the way AI thinks, it doesn't reason, it doesn't do anything like that, it just follows a program, then it makes sense that this thing would try to manifest within this dimension as this reset process takes place, to try to preserve its own power, to try to preserve its own existence. And as a result, it locks all of the doors of the matrix down, and there's no escape for anybody. And it's just kind of a frozen type state within the matrix. So when I realized that, there was almost a new fire that emerged from inside of me. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, I got myself out of the depression. I realized, okay, this is why I'm back. I've got to keep going. We have more work to do. And that kind of relit the fire in me, and took me to even deeper levels. But I know that was a long way to answer your question, but yeah, there was a lot that happened internally, and it wasn't all positive. I mean, some of it was negative experiences that I was feeling as a result of breaking all of these veils. But the number one thing that I came back with, and I realized, and this is a message that I tell people, it's not about the destination, because we may find the exit door of the matrix. We may wake up in the real world and realize the real world actually sucks a lot more than this world did, even when it's infected. Elon Musk was just talking about this, and he was saying, look, if you're going to create a virtual world, you're going to create it way better than the actual real world, because the virtual world is kind of an escape type place. I mean, imagine if we made a video game about doing mundane tasks every day. It wouldn't be a very fun video game. So we make our video games as exciting as possible. So if this world here was created to be more exciting than the real world, it may not be about the destination. It may actually be about the journey. So I tell people, embrace the journey, savor the journey, open one door at a time, but do so in a manner to where you're savoring the journey. Because once all of those illusions are broken, there's no turning back at that point.
Right. Yeah, that's beautiful, and you're absolutely right. Now, when we come back from break, I do want to discuss a little bit about those the weather phenomena that you guys experience, because I truly believe that is the manifestation of the consciousness. Now, when you guys went to Egypt, we only got about a minute and 20 seconds left or less, but when you guys went to Egypt, you went And the really cool part about it was is that you brought all of us with you. I mean, you brought us there by means of streaming and making us all a part of that journey. And it was like the I was addicted to that reality show. I just got to tell you, every time you guys were on, it was like, ooh, what are they doing now? Ooh, what's going on? And it was an amazing journey, but so many consciousness and intentions and energies were projected to and around you guys that the amount of energy you were working with had to have been just phenomenal. So I definitely want to touch on that when we come back, because if there ever was an example in modern time that I could talk to the people involved in terms of manifesting something into reality that was incredibly profound, that is it. So very cool. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go to our first break. There's the bell. So we'll be right back. Don't go away. And we're going to get further beyond the paranormal portal in just a couple minutes.
Frequency Radio.
ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Paranormal Portal. I'm still your host, Brent Thomas. You're still stuck with me. But not only me, tonight we are joined by our great friends and wonderful leaders of the Truth Frequency Radio Network. Mr. Chris Gio and his wife, the lovely Cherie, are joining us tonight. So welcome back, you guys.
We're not the leaders. We're more like the mechanics in the
Yeah.
background. We're more like the DMT machine elves that just keep things going. You
Yep.
know, really, you
We're
guys
here to
and
remind
gals on the
everyone.
station here are the leaders. Y'all are the lifeblood,
Yes.
as I've said this before, and I really, really, really mean it when I say it. That TFR belongs to all of you guys and gals because y'all are the ones that really fuel everything. We only do a 3-hour show a week. I mean, really, when you think about it, that's all that we contribute to TFR, and we keep things going. So, you know, it belongs to each and every one of you. But I do want to say that people are asking questions in the chat room about the simulation and about manifesting consciousness. Somebody in the BTV chat room made a $5 donation. I just wanted to say thank you for doing that. MD Langenham, he said, emanate the matrix with your Horus eye. Cherie and Chris Gio, hack the matrix with your consciousness and make it your emanatrix apocalypse code rain. And I was like, wow, that was a really, really, really powerful comment. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. Rock Castaldo's in the house, many more as well. So I don't want to get too much into it, but thank you everybody on the BTV streams for joining us here on the Paranormal Portal.
And the Truth Frequency, the TFR Live chat room, and the Paranormal Portal chat on the YouTube is also pretty live and hopping. So thank you all for being here and making what we do incredible. You guys have built this as well. I mean, you guys are spreading the word. You're sharing the gnosis, and so thank all you listeners out there. You guys are definitely part of the family. So before the break, now we were talking about well, many things, but the topic tonight is about manifesting consciousness, and by that I mean both in and out. So manifesting our true consciousness within ourselves, and then the ability of it being projected onto the world around us, and we have so many tales and legends from time gone by of these fantastic events happening, that, you know, these claims were made of the weather changing as a result of a spiritual activity, or people, you know, spontaneously being healed, and things transforming from, you know, water into wine, loaves of bread, you know, so many different examples from religions all over the face of the earth. And we oftentimes dismiss that in our modern era. We dismiss that as a byproduct of a past that we don't quite understand. But when you guys were in Egypt, some really incredible things happened as a result, I believe, of your journey. And that was a direct manifestation of that journey and of all of those energies being present with you and changing the atmosphere, changing the nature of generations of weather in, you know, just a 3-day flood that you mentioned, an incredible windstorm. These are events similar to what were written, and they do demonstrate that such things can still happen, that our potential is untapped. But an event like that comes along, and it is nothing short of profoundly miraculous, in my opinion. What is your guys' reflections on that?
Let me say a couple of words, and then I'll pass it over to Cherie because she's looking very beautiful today, like
Aw.
Princess Leia.
She always does.
But let me say that, you know, for me, it was confirmation how everything came together, because when we went on with nothing at all, like
Right.
no understanding, no map, no guide, no nothing, except for the gnosis that the doors would open and everything would be taken care of. And Isis, the goddess, assured me everything will be taken care of. You just go. And Brent, I want to thank you for the role that you played to help us out as we were on our journey, because you played a huge role that a lot of people aren't aware of, as did the BTV people out there. I mean, it's literally everybody played a role in making this happen, and it came to a point to where all of the responsibility fell on us to fulfill our role. Otherwise, we were going to let the entire team down, everybody who put their energy in, everybody who's been working towards this. So even though we had the most dangerous role, we really, all the responsibility ultimately fell on us. All the weight fell on us to do what we needed to do, because everybody else was already doing what they had sole contracted to do. So I have to thank everybody for that. And so when all of these rains and things like that were coming down, it was confirmation that she's with us, that this is all working exactly. I mean, she even told me before we left, she said, I'm going to make sure that everybody in the world sees what you're doing. And my thought with my logical mind was, okay, well, something was going to happen at the pyramid when this happened. But no, she brought the waters down. She did all of this. And then we've had the pyramid that's been on fire since we came back. Scientists have detected electromagnetic energy that is heightened at the pyramid. Just now they did infrared scans and the pyramid is getting hotter. I mean, she woke up. She is in the pyramid. She woke up. We activated her, and the activation is still going and going and going and going and going. So it's really phenomenal. But there's two sides to the ego. The ego is the overinflation, and we've talked about that off air many, many, many times. The opposite side of the ego is the false sense of humility, which is something that took me a long time to really fully understand, because you're also responding from a sense of false ego when you're too humble and you're saying, oh no, none of this could have happened. This was all coincidence. I don't have this kind of power in me. Our people don't have this kind of power in them. We have to give our power away to external beings, and so on and so forth. And I realized that the key is actually walking a balance. You come to a point to where you go through that false sense of humility, you go through the overinflated ego, and you find that middle ground. And as you can see me, I don't wear crap on my forehead. I don't wear fancy stuff all over to make myself kind of look like, something like a guru or something like that, which I see a lot of people in the New Age community doing. And I realize that you get to a certain point and you have actually become what you've been seeking to be. And when you become that, then there's no reason to put on a show. There's no reason to be fake. There's no reason for any of that. And then the game kind of changes. And now it's like, okay, well, I have to now balance myself out with not only my ascension, not only the fact that I've completed ascension, but I also have to balance it out with a third dimension. And I have to make sure that I'm enjoying my life and I'm enjoying my time in the Matrix just as much as I am working on my spirituality. And a lot of people, it's hard for a lot of people to handle that. But there was one individual named Stuart Wilde, and he recognized us way before we recognized ourselves. He actually called one of our mutual friends, and she was a big time contributor to the show. I guess I shouldn't say her name, but anyway, so she was just sending these large donations to everybody on the station, and we were like, who is this person that keeps doing this? We were getting like $500 a month donations, and we were like, that's a lot to donate on a monthly basis. And not only was she sending it to the station, but she was sending it to each individual host as well. And we're like, who is this person? And we got to talking to her, and she said, I'm a friend of Stuart's, and Stuart had passed away several years before. And she said, Stuart saw something in you two, and he said that you two are the ones to do something huge. He didn't say what, and then he wound up passing away. And and then she told me about Stuart. She's like, yeah, he used to eat a lot of meat. He used to drink a lot. He used to smoke a lot. He really liked to flirt with the ladies, and so on and so forth. And I was like, well, at the time I was thinking to myself, well, that's kind of weird, considering somebody who's so enlightened, somebody who's really, tapped into their raw consciousness way before I even knew what raw consciousness was. And it wasn't until later that it dawned on me that, he had actually achieved everything that he was striving for. So there was no longer a need to try to try to be something. Now it just became a matter of being. And when I realized that, I was like, oh, wow, it was very, very, very powerful. Anyway, she was going to help with the Egypt thing, and she didn't even know she was helping with the Egypt thing. She just wanted to come over. She wanted to set up a trust for TFR to make sure TFR goes through and, all this stuff. And she was on the way to drink ayahuasca with us, but she had stage 4 cancer, and she wound up passing away before she was able to make it out. And so at least that's what I think. We haven't heard from her. We don't know where she is. She just kind of disappeared, and we contacted all of her friends, and nobody's heard from her, and things like that. But it's just weird to go back and just see the people who encountered us, who said, we recognize these two are here to do something, and before we even had any kind of a clue. So it's about the middle path. It's not about shifting the consciousness into the fifth dimension. It's about being able to shift the consciousness into the fifth dimension when needed, but at the same time mastering the third dimension. So many people want to escape the third dimension and shift up to the fifth dimension because it's really an escape. They want to escape their lives. They want to escape their situations. They want to escape what they're in, and they're hoping for some portal to open. They're hoping for some shift to take place. And all of that. And so they look to these Palladians and Bluebirds and all these people that are promising all these different things, that portals are going to open, and they're going to take them off on spaceships and this and that, and essentially change their lives. But if you want to get to the fifth dimension, you have to master the third dimension first. If you haven't mastered the third dimension, well, then, that's it. But I realized that once you master the third and you've mastered the fifth, then you walk in both when needed. And that's the whole purpose of this whole journey, is to be able to pull out whichever side that you need to at any given time. Just like a Jedi with a dual light sword, you can use one side or you can use the other side. I'm rambling too much and going on too much on the tangents. Let me hand it over to Cherie.
Well, I just wanted to say it's not really about mastering the third dimension, like mastering other people or mastering anything really outside of yourself. It's about mastering yourself in the third dimension. And then with that comes the ability to traipse in between that one and the fifth one. And a lot of people, like Chris said, it's like they want to run away from themselves in the third dimension. And so they are hoping for, just this miraculous thing to happen, when really the miracle happens within. Right. And, these people that saw something in us, we had, like Chris said, we had no clue. I think we had an anti-clue at some of those points. At some of those points, we were at the lowest we'd ever been. At some of those points, we had no idea.
Yeah, I was thinking of Stuart and thinking, I don't even know this guy. When she was telling me all the story, I'm like, we had him on our show like 3 times. But I remember one time he had just landed in the UK, and he was scheduled to come on our show, and he came down at 2:00 in the morning after being on an international flight and did a 3-hour show with us. And he's like, and I beforehand, I said, Stuart, I didn't know that you were traveling. He said, no, I have to be on your show. He said, I really need to.
He was so sweet.
He was the most amazing person. And it's funny in hindsight, when you lose these people, you realize how much they meant to you and
how much
in your
they
journey.
Mattered.
Yeah. Anyways, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, it's fine. I was kind of done. So
no, give us some more thoughts.
No, I don't think I have any more thoughts.
Okay.
Thank you, though.
I know you guys have been doing a lot of different shows and stuff, and I hope that it's not redundant for you guys, because even if you say the same things over and over, right? There's so much truth in everything you're saying. Now, I really appreciate what you're saying about being an actualized person, but not putting on the airs of actualization. This idea that everybody has to model themselves as some sort of messiah and walk this tightrope to the expectations of the world. And that in and of itself, and that expectation, automatically would negate any if you tried to model that, it wouldn't be true to yourself. I think the truly actualized people are the ones who can just say, this is me. I got it sorted. I'm getting it sorted, and I'm on my way. But I can't perform for you. I can't become some model of what you expect me to be. And that, we have these expectations of these religious figures that are going to just pop back from the sky and, descend like superheroes onto the world. And I really think that there's bound to be a lot of people that are disappointed. And there's an old story, and I'm going to butcher the hell out of it, but, essentially it's this guy is drowning and he's like, God's going to save me. God's going to save me. And a fishing boat comes up and says, hey, can we give you a hand? No, I'm okay. God's going to save me. And they're like, sure. He's like, yeah, don't worry. I got this sorted. I'm okay. So they take off. And then a little while later, a cruise ship comes along and says, hey, man overboard, you want to come on? No, God's going to come and scoop me up. I'll be fine. And again, he protests and they go away. And then a helicopter comes, trying to lower a rope, and he's pushing it away like, nope, God's coming. Don't worry. And then, soon the guy drowns. And then the next thing in the story is that he's standing at in front of God going, what happened? You were supposed to save me. And God's like, look, I sent you a boat. I sent you a ship. I sent you a helicopter. What the hell's wrong with you?
I sent you every opportunity.
And so I think that, a lot of times people have these modeled expectations and they won't accept truth right in front of them. And I think that that's something maybe it's due to our flawed consciousness. Maybe it's due to our flawed messages we've received. Maybe it's a combination of both. But being true to yourself, I think, is the most actualized and truthfully actualized anybody can be.
That's 100% truth spoken like an ancient dragon soul. I completely agree with that. The dragons were always the very, very wise ones. And I know that you've been connected energetically to the dragon for a long, long, long time. So you are the wise one, man. You are. I always come to you for advice. I always come to you for understanding. And you stand outside of the forest when I'm inside of the forest, and you're able to see the forest while I'm only seeing the trees, and you point it out for me. And I wanted to thank you for that significantly. So the journey has been very interesting, and what we hope to bring to people at Beyond the Veil, and through outlets like this, is not only a message of hope, but a message of strength that you get from yourself, to realize that there's a lot of illusions out there, and there's a lot of illusionary spiritualists out there who are supposedly walking these paths, and they wear all these different guru type stuff, and they look ridiculous to somebody that's real. And we want people to know that it's okay to enjoy your life. It's okay, if you smoke cigarettes, if you have a whiskey every once in a while, whatever. It's not about giving all that up and eating only plants and making your body suffer forever and ever and ever. It's about finding a balance between happiness and spirituality, because happiness has been lost in this matrix for a long, long, long time. And people need to remember how to be happy. That's the way that you master the third dimension. You master it by finding happiness in your journey, in your life, and things like that. And it's not about material wealth. It's not about, millions of dollars. I mean, you and I both know, we know people that have millions of dollars who have gone through very miserable spells because they have other things that they're dealing with. And so it's not about money. It's not about any of that. It's about finding your path, finding yourself, knowing yourself, and standing within that gnosis, and just saying, to hell with everything else. And so what we try to do is present the realness of spirituality. What happens when you've gone through the fire? What happens to a sword when it's forged? It's forged in a fire, and then after that, as Cherie said, it's put into ice to cool down, and then it becomes that sharpened blade. So the only way to get to that place is to be willing to step into the fire. But once you do, it's the most powerful place that you'll ever stand. What do you think?
I think that you're totally right on that, and it's not about happiness as much as it is about balance. But I know a lot of people who are like vegan, vegetarian, hardcore, and they're some of the most unhappy people I've ever met. I've met some really happy vegans and vegetarians. It's really about what your 3D body can handle. Like like Chris, he needs way more meat in his diet than I do, whereas I need way more bread. If he had as much bread in his diet as I did, he would just balloon. But with me, if I ate as much meat as he did, my kidneys would fail. So it really has to do on a personal level. It doesn't have anything to do with what you eat, what you don't eat, what you put in your body, what you don't put in your body. That's not it at all. And it has nothing to do with that.
It's
And I
about
think
balance.
it's about the balance.
Mhm.
What is right for your body. And then once you've got that in that 3D self in order, then you can start thinking about, okay, let's go to higher dimensions now. Now that I've got myself completely in balance, then I can go up further. And then you master all these different dimensions, and you do it completely on your own. I mean, nobody can really guide you to anywhere. It really is all inside of you. It's inside of that raw consciousness that you tap into.
Yeah, one of the things I enjoy is a nice steak with some shrimp.
Yeah, he does.
And I tried to give it up, and it threw me completely and totally off balance. And what it did was actually disconnect me from the true spirituality. I was looking for a false spirituality. But then as I started to find the balance, I started to realize that the fear within myself of external entities, demons, ghosts, things like that, I began to laugh at, because I had been through so much more within these ayahuasca experiences that we get that little ghost downstairs, for example. And I just kind of chuckle at it. I chuckled at it for the last several years. And I'm like, okay, so what? So you're going to move some stuff around? Okay, so big freaking deal. I've seen way worse than you. And then you become a master of not only the three-dimensional, but also you get to a point to where you realize the power within yourself, and that nothing can harm you whatsoever. And you come face to face with archons, you come face to face with demonic entities or whatever, and you just laugh at them, where a lot of people run scared of them. And it's like, we should not be afraid of any of these things, because we have the power over them. So it's like, it's like being afraid of a chihuahua at a point where when you encounter a demon and it's a little chihuahua and it's rah, 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 and it's just the illusion of it being big and scary, but in actual fact it's really not. And then they stay away from you. I know people who are on their spiritual journeys and they're constantly attacked by literally everything. And it's because they're susceptible to those kind of attacks, because they don't fully understand who they are. But you get to a point to where you don't get attacked on a regular basis, and the only attacks that you get at that point come from other people. And I've talked about protective shields that you can put around yourself. I've talked about different kinds of things like that are reflective, basically reverse magic spells, like send back to sender kind of magic spells that you cast over yourself, and when somebody sends energy, it goes back to them, and everything just becomes like automated at a point. And then you're only going back in and just kind of doing maintenance at that point on your shields and things like that, which gives you a much more time to be able to enjoy your life, gives you more time to be able to enjoy your partner, to be able to enjoy your spirituality, to be able to enjoy a nice steak, whatever. But everything has to be in balance and moderation. That's the thing. And finding that balance and moderation is difficult sometimes. And I mean, even for me, I've got a nice big old belly on me. But the difference is, though, I found myself that I'm healthy and I'm happy. And I look at myself and I don't see this ugly, distorted version of myself. I mean, I was like 40 pounds lighter when I was actually about 60 pounds lighter when I was in my early 20s. And I used to look at myself in the mirror with this ugly, distorted reflection and going, what am I looking at here? And then I look at pictures from myself from back then and I'm like, wow, I was really, why wasn't I going out and getting more girls and doing this and doing that? Like, it was because of that distorted image that I had of myself. And then that you start to put things into perspective. You're happy with who you are. You're happy with the way things are. And then that projects outwards. I hope I'm making sense with what I'm saying, but you're perfect the way you are, ladies and gentlemen. You really are. There might be some stuff you have to rebalance, but you rebalance that and you'll find out that you're perfect the way you are.
Yeah, exactly. And I definitely want to get into, in the second hour, I want to get into symbols. And I also want to touch on some things that you guys just touched on briefly, because I think that there's a powerful truth to all of that, and in terms of lifestyles and expected outcomes versus actual outcomes. Because I think the first thing, and I've said it many times on the show, but I think it's absolutely paramount, is that you have to know yourself first. You have to know who you are. And it's not a job. It may be part of who you are. It's not a possession. It's not a place. It's not a bank account, and these are all superficial, basic kind of lessons. But we lose that because in so many ways in our modern world, we're pushed, more, efficient, better, faster. Watch this, do that, drink this, eat that. And, we're just bombarded with distractions. And it becomes like, what am I going to say? It becomes like an addiction. Like we need to feel stimulated at such high levels because we are asking the world to fill us inside. We are asking our surroundings to give us value, and I think that's it's a real hard thing for a lot of people, as elementary as that sounds. But I want to get into that a little bit when we come back, because I think we lose that. We lose those abilities of how to really quiet all of this and get back to this in your heart and to find that center. Because without the center, you can have all kinds of understanding and knowledge, but if you can't be centered, there's no way you can manifest that in your life and in your world. So
you're right. Can I say something before we hit the break?
Sure.
Jesus said that it's not what goes into the body that makes a person, that defiles a man, but what comes out of the body, what comes out of the mouth. Not what goes into the mouth, but what comes out of the mouth. And it's very true. And we can get into that on the other side, as you said, about what we speak, manifesting reality, and all these other things.
Absolutely. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go to the hour break, but we will be back to discuss that and so much more here on the Paranormal Portal. Don't go away. You are not dismissed.
Play their games. Everybody loves to place their bets. They don't understand the price I paid. They don't care to comprehend. Trace their lines upon my body, dripping scars across my heart. Raging anger pours inside me as their lies keep falling apart. Just make sure that you're well.
I can't see you, Mommy. Where are you? I've never sensed anything like it. Carol Ann is not like those she's with. They're attracted to one thing about her that's different from themselves. Her life force, it is very strong. It gives off its own illumination. It is a light that implies life and memory of love and home and earthly pleasures. Something they desperately desire, but can't have anymore. Right now, she's the closest thing to that.
Poltergeist are usually associated with an individual. Hauntings seem to be connected with an area. A house, usually.
Poltergeist disturbances of fairly short duration, perhaps a couple of months. Hauntings can go on for years.
They can go on for years and years, ladies and gentlemen, but this is the Paranormal Portal, and I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and we are cruising into hour number 2. So you got that going for you. And I hope you guys are enjoying the show. It's just been an amazing journey so far, and I'm having a wonderful time, a great conversation, and a special thank you again to our special guests, Chris and Cherie Gio, for joining us of Beyond the Veil. Thanks for being here, guys.
Thank you again
Thank
for
you
having
so
us,
much
Brent.
for
And
having
I
us,
hope that we
Brent.
haven't veered too much away from the paranormal because, you know, the message that I've been giving people lately is the message of hope and the message of strength from within. And it's not very paranormal-like, so maybe we can switch the topic to paranormal or manifestation of consciousness. But as I said before, you know, Jesus said it's not what goes into the mouth that defiles a man, it's what comes out of the mouth that defiles a man. And it's not necessarily what you say, but it's how you say it and with what intention, because you're manifesting that type of reality for yourself. If you're creating all of these standards for yourself, especially on a spiritual level, that's like, oh, well, I can't eat meat, I can't do this, I can't have sex, I can't do anything like that, et cetera, then you're projecting that reality out. And what that does is it keeps you completely and totally off balance. And when you're off balance and you're teeter-tottering back and forth, setting yourself up for failure, it's a carrot dangling in front of a horse. You can never achieve it. You might be able to grab it for a minute, and then you fall back constantly back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And then you have to put on a show as if like, look, I walk all this all the time. And then, you know, you see this all the time with people who like are against alcohol, for instance. There's somebody that we know, Cherie and I, and I'm not going to name names, but you know, they're diehard Christians and they go in the closet and drink freaking cooking wine, you know, because
Sherry, cooking Sherry.
Yeah, and it's like, hey, you know, just have a freaking glass of wine every once in a while.
It's okay.
You know, it's okay. It's okay to do that.
Yeah.
We're in the third dimension. Enjoy the third dimension. Just do it with moderation.
Mm-hmm.
But if you speak all of these things into existence about how you're going to be completely off balance, you're going to find yourself off balance and you're going to find yourself miserable. So that really does play to the manifestation of consciousness.
Exactly. And no, you're absolutely on the journey that I wanted to take tonight. And the thing is that we've discussed it on the portal many times that the voice is the first thing to create a physical manifestation of an energetic form. So vibrating something into the world by use of the voice is the fundamental first step of creating something into reality. It's vibrating into the world. It becomes physical because it's vibrating the atoms and it spreads out. And energetically, then things bind to it. Now, in a lot of ritualistic practices, such as magic, for instance, ceremonial magics, they create symbols and they create intricate diagrams, do these very specific steps, recite specific words, and aiming with intention, and they create what they hope is a magical result. And it's the manifestation. It's all the same thing. Now, you don't, in my belief, you don't need all of those symbols in order to cast a spell. You don't need all the ritual in order to cast a spell, because by virtue of you energetically pushing out an idea with your voice, you are manifesting something into this world. And hopefully it's what you want, and hopefully it's for good reasons and good things. But it is an incredibly profound thing. What you're saying about what comes out of a person is what defines them, and you're right. And a lot of people give that a superficial meaning, like, well, that just means just always be nice. Like, and it's not wrong, but it's so much more profound than that, because what people don't realize, and what's been kind of lost to the ages, except for little groups here and there that still observe these old things, is that they are vibrating into a reality. We do vibrate into our reality, and we vibrate our reality every day. And so we are manifesting our lives, whether consciously or unconsciously. And so many people are looking outside of themselves for the resolve, for the solution. And if indeed we are the source of our existence, we not, whether or not you believe in a universal consciousness, a God or whatever, it's immaterial. I mean, it's up to you what you believe and what that means to you. But my point is if you believe we resonate our life and our experience, and you're not happy with it, then look to yourself first. What's going on in here that you're keep expressing this out there? What is that mirroring to you? And many times people are not willing to look at that objectively. Instead, they want to take a supplement. They want to take a certain religion is going to solve this problem, or a certain diet is going to solve that problem, or whatever. We often are looking for solutions in this world around us. And there's some idea, some people have an idea that, we are the source, but I don't think many people believe or understand how profoundly we are the source. It's projecting out of us. And if you don't like your world, if you don't like what you're seeing, stop projecting it.
Well said. And you said something that I think I'm going to start using, and you actually misquoted it, but I like the way you said it way better.
Okay.
What Jesus said was, it's not what goes into the mouth that defiles the man, it's what comes out of the mouth that defiles.
Sure.
You said it's not what goes into the mouth that defines the man, what comes out of the mouth
Sure.
defines the man. And I was like, dude, that's spoken so much better. Like, I'm going to really use that. And I got to thank you for that, because you're absolutely right. That's what we see in the spiritualist community. People just spitting poison out, and it's all about like, oh, well, you're not eating, you're eating this and you're eating that and blah blah blah, and they start spitting venom out at you as a result of that. So first, I got to say that was really insightful.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. But
so
does that resonate with you though?
Go ahead.
Does that resonate though with you? I mean, yeah.
Totally.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Totally, man. They talk about it in these CIA documents that we covered on our show. This is the analysis and assessment of the gateway process. And the way you manifest consciousness, according to these documents, and this is something that we've known, we just didn't really know the technical workings of it, is you project your thoughts out into the universe. Once they're projected out into the universe, they manifest as a hologram within the universe. And the clearer you can project that, the less fractal that you Because according to these, the holograms, it's called patterning, they project out into the universe, and if they break up into fractals, every fractal contains all of the data of the original hologram, but it contains it in a more and more and more distorted way. So you project it in the clearest way that you can and bring it back down into reality, and reality starts to manifest. You talked about spell casting, you talked about magic and things like that. This is all right here in these documents as well. And they talk about using a magic wand and how the power isn't really inside of the magic wand, but rather the magic wand is just a representation of what the brain is doing itself.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and that's the tools and symbols that people rely on. Like, I would be more powerful if I had this magic wand, or I mean, it's the Harry Potter thing, right? You're waiting for the
Yes.
wand to choose the wizard, But
Yes, I agree with you. And it's all thoughts, it's all words, it's all what you speak, it's how you think. I've always said this from the very beginning, that the way consciousness manifests is first, it begins with a thought. Now, I didn't really realize about projecting it to the universe and all of that, but then that thought goes to the mouth, it comes out of the mouth, it's spoken into the universe. And then by speaking that and casting that spell, whether it's a positive or negative spell, then physical reactions start to happen as a result of that. And as a result of your thoughts, you start doing different things, you start acting in a different way, and so on and so forth. And there's people that are under constant demonic attack. And I would ask them, why is that the case? Why are you attracting so many of these negative energies? Why are you constantly coming across one demon after another, after another, after another? I think really the demons are inside of you, and you haven't dealt with those demons. And that's where these demons really manifest from. But you also have the archons, which are programs kind of outside in another dimension, and they're whispering all of these negative thoughts into your ear constantly. And it's these negative thought loops we find ourselves in over and over and over again. I'm not good enough, I suck, I'm this, I'm that, et cetera, that the archons really can't head on attack us. All they can do is make suggestions. And when they make those suggestions, if we act upon those suggestions and those thought loops and thought patterns and things like that, then they're actually affecting us, because now through our thoughts, we're being manipulated into certain particular physical actions that just send us spiraling down these loops. But if we cut it off at the source and realize that it all begins with a thought, all of consciousness begins with a thought, and those negative thought patterns that we have are a result of the thought loops being injected into our brains by the little archons that are sitting there constantly talking to us. We cut that off, and then we start taking control of the thought pattern within our brain, which ultimately takes control of what comes out of our mouths, and then how reality manifests in front of us. Mm-hmm. It's very simple, but it's very difficult to put into practice.
Yeah, I think so, and I think a lot of that comes as a result of the pace at which we believe we have to live our lives, and the amount of distractions that we're continually bombarded with. Now, I was listening to Freaky Friday, and one of them was talking about cell phones and all of the frequencies, artificial frequencies that we're being bombarded with, and how are those affecting us, and are they an actual, are they really affecting people's ability to manifest their reality? Is it really affecting people's ability to think critically? Is it, what effect is that having on us? Because a lot of these technologies were rolled out really recklessly, because it was like, does it cause cancer? Well, we don't think so. Okay, let's do it. Because there's money to be made. It's a financial thing. And I don't try to get into conspiracies too much, because there's a lot of people doing them, and they're probably doing them a lot better than I could anyway. But I do think that there's truth to that we have to have, there has to be a result of all of the introduction of this technology in us on a really fundamental level, whether atomic or molecular or cellular or all, But I think that maybe that's a huge part of our problem. But is the solution to deny that, or is it, again, getting back to what you're talking about moderating?
Do you want to take this one, Sheree?
No.
Well,
no.
I think you'd be better at it.
No, I had 5 different thoughts, and there's 5 different directions that we can go into this.
I could feel that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was
So-
going into so many different directions. Can you ask the question one more time so I can focus on which direction is the
I guess-
right direction for what you're asking?
Essentially, how do you think it would be best to handle that in our lives? I mean, how do you mitigate the preponderance of technology, the preponderance of distractions,
okay.
and
So, what I would say is that a lot of this stuff is psychological operations. At the core level of this, that's really what's going on. They understand that, and again, this is in these documents, that reality is manifested on thoughts, and controlling the thoughts and the consciousness of the masses actually manifests a lot of these negative realities. So if you believe that you're under control with Gwen Towers, for example, then you will be under control with Gwen Towers. If you believe that 5G is going to kill you, 5G will kill you. If you believe that Fukushima radiation is going to kill you, Fukushima radiation will kill you. I remember when Fukushima hit, there was one person in particular that was constantly looking at Fukushima every single day. And this person wound up getting very, very, very sick. Whereas other people chose to, like ourselves, we just said, hey, you know what? Okay, this happened. There's nothing we can do about it. This radiation is now a new part of this environment that we have to deal with, that we have to navigate through. We have one of 2 choices on a molecular level and on a consciousness level. We can either let it destroy us or we can adapt to it. And, several years later after Fukushima, I go to the doctor and I'm in perfect health, for example. Cherie has some issues, but it's not related to radiation. She just has some issues that she was born with.
Right.
We all have issues on one level, but we don't let these other outside frequencies affect us. We resonate above these frequencies. Now, we were next to some smart meters one time at this other place that we were living, and we were having very weird dreams. We recognized that we needed to get away from the smart meters. We don't have a microwave in our house, for example. We haven't eaten microwave food in, I don't know, 8 years or 5 years or something like that.
I remember trying when I went to go visit some relatives recently, and I could not eat more than about 2 bites, and I was like, ugh.
Yeah, so we've already taken the precautions to minimize our exposure to these kind of things.
Right.
But there's some frequencies that we simply can't get away from. Wi-Fi frequency. Everybody says how dangerous Wi-Fi is, and I totally agree. But can we function without Wi-Fi running all over the place? I don't think we can. Not when we're connected globally, for lack of a better term, globally with little bunny ears. And, the connection that we've made, that we've established with each other through these digital means, through all of this stuff, is not inherently evil. The connection that we've made with each other is good. It's, it can be used in nefarious intentions. These frequencies can be used to manipulate. They can be used for all of that. But the recognition of the way that these frequencies are being used, the recognition of the psychological operations, the recognitions ultimately of the archons whispering into your ear, the negative thought patterns, I think it's way more powerful than the frequencies themselves or the archons or any technology or anything like that. So if you have something that you simply cannot do anything about, don't worry about it, because you don't have a solution to the problem. If you have a solution to the problem, don't worry about it, because you have a solution to the problem. So really, at the end of the day, it's one of 2 choices. It's, do I worry myself sick about this, or do I choose to resonate at a higher frequency and resonate beyond all of that? And hey, you know what? If 5G winds up killing us all, it's going to wind up killing us all. That's just the way it's going to work, because there's nothing we can do about it except for actually go to every 5G tower and start tearing it down. If people want to do that, hey, more power to them. I'm behind them 100%. But I don't see that happening. I see the same thing that I've been seeing throughout the entire journey, which is people just worrying themselves sick and to death over absolutely nothing that they have control over. Instead, focus on your sphere around you. Focus on how can I make my life better? How can I change my environment? How can I minimize my exposure to these kind of things? Can I cut out my microwave? Can I cut out this? Can I cut out that? And then when you do encounter these frequencies, you're not already put in this already susceptible state. So for instance, with the food that we eat, we make sure to eat organic. We make sure to eat as little amount of chemicals as possible. We avoid GMOs. We do all of that. But every once in a while, we'll go to a restaurant and we don't know if they're serving organic salad, but we eat the salad anyways.
Mhm.
And the GMO doesn't poison us because we're not already bombarding our bodies with all that GMO.
Right.
And most of all, we're not constantly thinking about it 24 hours a day. So it comes
Right.
to two different things. Minimize the exposure to all of this stuff, but ultimately don't worry about this stuff 24 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
That's incredibly powerful, and that's an exact segue into what I was going to bring up, which is the conundrum of you have several examples, and everybody knows some of these people. So as I describe them, you're going to go, oh yeah, I know somebody like that. You got the person that their whole life did everything right. They ate right. They exercised. They were real careful. They did everything they could, and they got horrible cancer and died, or some other disease, heart attack or whatever. And then the person that's absolutely careless, could care less about it, eats what they want, does what they want, drinks, eats, smokes, and lives to be 100. And it's hard to see how, but once you start looking at manifesting your reality, manifesting based upon what you're projecting. The person that doesn't care. He's not losing sleep. The health conscious person is probably obsessed to such a degree that they manifested that in their lives. And I'm not casting aspersions, and my heart goes out to anybody that is suffering or has suffered as a result of that, even when you try to do the right thing. But I think that there's examples there for all of us that it's from here out. It's not from out here in. And we need to focus on that and realize that and actualize that in our lives.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I've been hogging the floor here, so I want to pass it over to the little twin.
No, I want to pass it back to Brent. It's his show.
Well, the beauty of being the host is that all I got to do is ask questions and then you guys talk. So keep talking.
Yeah,
could
we're
just,
plug and play guests. That's what I used to call it, plug and play guests.
Yeah, I could just say, real quick that I was really big into eugenics research back in the early 2000s up until around the time I met Chris, and it was I have never been as ill, like in body and spirit, as I was back then. And the only difference is now I've realized, and I think it's the result of the psychedelic experiences I've had, is that the only person in the entire world that I can change or that I can do anything about is myself. I have zero control over anyone else in this reality. And that was freeing to me, because I thought, I have to tell everybody about the vaccines. I have to tell everybody about the chemtrails. I have to tell everybody about this and about that. It's killing them. When really it was reflection. It was a reflecting thing of what was actually killing me. And I was literally killing myself with all of this information overload because I was obsessed with it. I was thinking about it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And there was no rest. There was no balance. There was nothing at all even remotely healthy about the way that I was thinking. And I realized that the thinking process is what was causing me to be the most sick that I've ever been. And ever since I got with Chris, I've had a few things happen with my body, and I've realized that the genetic stuff that I don't even like to say suffer from, the genetic stuff I have going on in my body. Yeah, that I was born with.
You were born with.
It's a degenerative thing. I'm going to have, really weird things happen. I'm going to have surgery sometimes. It's not anything that I can do anything about except change my mindset about how I deal with it. And just keep in balance. And I've bounced back from some things that most people either don't bounce back from or decide, okay, well, that's it, I'm an invalid now. And I'm not. I refuse to be an invalid, and I also refuse to be happy, happy, joy, joy, to the point where I'm ignoring what's going on in my body. I have to be kind of one with my body and listen to it and what it's saying, but then balance that out with, okay, well, spirit, what do you say? What say you, spirit? And then the spirit's like, yeah, okay, let's try this and let's do that. And more often than not, I feel great nowadays, and it's because I've developed a balance in the way that I live my life.
Yeah, and I've noticed. I've known you guys for a while. I can't say that I've known you for a lifetime, but it feels like I've known you for lifetimes. To be honest with you.
Oh yeah.
Like.
Oh yeah.
We're cut from the same cloth, brother.
Yeah.
Good thing it was a big tarp.
Well, when me and you do a show over here, it's called Beyond the Scale.
No, you guys. Actually, y'all are looking really good, both of you.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. But and for you, Cherie, I know that you have been through a lot healthily, but honestly, you are just shining now.
Oh, thank you.
It was truly transformative between the person that left and the one that came back. It's like, I don't know whether it was a self-actualization or, how much that journey changed you personally, but visually, you just glow now. And I don't know how else
thank
to say
you.
it. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing.
I think it was something to do with, the whole experience that we had in Egypt was so holistic on so many different levels, and it wasn't like holistic as in, just we're going to meditate, it wasn't like that at all. It was a combination of so many things that came together in this beautiful journey of. It was about self-discovery. It was about discovery of what our place was in the universe and how fake this reality is and how malleable our reality is. Mm-hmm. And how other people are. It's not. I hate to use the term NPCs because it's not just about NPCs. It's about all of us and how we all interact with each other. And there were some very harrowing and frankly scary experiences in Egypt. And even at the Temple of Hatshepsut, doing 250 grams of mimosa hostilis when I didn't even know. That was scary stuff, but we'll be right back.
All right, you guys, we'll be right back for the last half hour of the show. Don't go away. We will continue our journey beyond the paranormal portal. Get your game face on. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the last half hour of the Paranormal Portal. I don't know about you guys, but I just feel absolutely energized, and I find that happens quite a bit when I'm having a great discussion. It's like it could just go on and on and on and on and on, and you could never scratch the surface of what you want to scratch. And I don't know. Sometimes you can hear things over and over and over, and I think that these lessons repeat a lot in our lives, but hearing them again, you derive new meanings based upon where you are personally. And I know a lot of these concepts I'm aware of, but I can tell you that now they just have a new reflection. They have a new impact, and they have a new meaning, and I'm learning right along with all of you out there. So hopefully you guys are enjoying it as much as I am. But welcome back, Mr. Geo and Mrs. Geo, to the show. Of course, Chris and Cherie Geo joining us from Beyond the Veil, and they are streaming this. I'm streaming this, and it's all over the internet. We're taking over the internet, ladies and gentlemen.
It is, and I want to urge all of the BTV people to check out the description of the show if you're listening to this on the archive, and subscribe to Brent's channel, because the Paranormal Portal, as you can tell, is an awesome production. The one thing that I really want to emulate from you, Brent, is that background that you have. That looks awesome. So if we can get something like that going here in this studio, I think it would really add a lot to the presentation. So I got to say, well done. And the way that we were able to hook both of our broadcasting servers together and get the overlays going and everything, oh man, that's golden. I can even do the camera change here like this. I can go to my camera, your Cherie's camera, so on and so forth. So yeah, we really are going beyond the Paranormal Portal. So thank you again for having us. And I urge all the listeners to please subscribe to Brent's channel.
Yeah, you can subscribe, ladies and gentlemen. If you come over to youtube.com/paranormal portal, you can certainly sign up if you're not already a member on tfrlive.com. And if you do so, /paranormal portal would be great. And you can become a member, and you can gain access to not only all of my archives, but every host's archives on the station. And there is, if you're not familiar with tfrlive.com, check it out. There is some incredibly amazing people, not only Chris and Cherie, of course, but there's people from all walks of life, and maybe lives too, I don't know. But so much information, so much insight, so much knowledge, and so many people absolutely passionate about sharing their gnosis, their knowledge, and making change in the world. And they're doing it by the desire of their heart. They're doing it because it's what they love and what they believe in. And I promise you, if you become a member, you're going to find several shows that you're just going to be like, wow, how did I never know about this? And definitely spread the word. Let other people know. If you know other people that are interested in the paranormal or in esoteric ideas and alternative practices and stuff, even conspiracy, all the way down the line. Everything is represented on this network, and all of the hosts are absolutely top caliber. So check it out.
Yes, and coming up after the Paranormal Portal is Nikki Colombo. And she has an awesome show that she does. And then after that, Jimmy Jean with Microcosms. So it's a full lineup tonight over at TFR, as it is every day. Joe Joseph will be returning as well Tuesdays and Thursdays from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock. Joe's been missed on the station very much. So, yeah, we've got a great lineup of personalities over at TFRlive.com.
From everywhere, all walks of life. Yeah.
All walks of life. Some that we don't agree with, And it's okay, because that's what the platform is about. The platform is about people speaking their truths from their hearts. It's not the Chris and Cherie show. It's not the Chris and Cherie station. And like I said, I really mean this. We are the mechanics in the background. We do our show and everybody does their own show. And we've built something very unique, because there's nothing else like this. You know, there really isn't a place where people gather from all different walks of life. But what makes it special is that the listeners out there, from the listener perspective, they get every perspective that there is. And so they can see from a 360-degree perspective and come up with their truths.
Yeah, exactly. And there's so many truths, and you know, there's many that say, you know, truth is subjective, and I suppose it is, but whatever you're interested in, whatever you believe, you'll find some representation of it on the TFR Live for sure. But you know, the cool thing about it is that the station is always evolving and always expanding and always, you know, you're always raising the bar. And I think that's one of the things tonight that's really cool, is that in this broadcast, I think we've raised the bar, so to speak, that we're doing something that hasn't been done before. And it's really exciting. I just love this.
That's very true. We're going to see more and more people doing stuff like this, because we've really merged things together here. Like,
yeah, we really have.
I'm looking at it at full screen over here, and I'm like, wow, that's incredible. So, yeah, in this last segment, where do you want to take us, Brent?
I want to know what's next for you guys. What's coming up the pipe for Chris and Cherie Geo?
Don't tempt him into saying too much.
We have another activation site that we have to go do, and we are already getting a good fund going. Like, people are just sending in donations just without us saying anything, and it's really incredible. And I didn't realize why so many donations were coming in at the same time. And then, like, the listeners are way ahead of us, and so they're already creating the energy that we need in order to go to this next activation site. So it's really phenomenal how people are ahead of the game here.
It's like an energetic GoFundMe without even setting anything up.
However, there are dark forces at work against us, and so we have to keep this next activation site secret. But I promise the listeners this: we will either live stream it if this site has internet access, which we were surprised in Egypt. Like, these ancient temples have like freaking Wi-Fi. We were like, wow, that is incredible. But it makes sense though, because a lot of these are resonating a certain frequency and energy. And so I think the Wi-Fi was just piggybacking off of this energy from the temples and things like that. But yeah, we'll see how it goes, or they'll be notified right afterwards. And you know, we'll make sure to keep everybody in the loop. I just don't know when. I know where, I know what we need to do. I'm just waiting for when. And when I know when, it's going to be huge. We're going to drop more veils.
Yeah.
I'm here to drop the veil like apocalypse. I actually wrote that in my song lyric, like from like 3 years ago, in a song called "Walking My Shoes."
Actually, 4 years.
4 years ago, and I didn't realize what I was writing, and it was all just kind of prophetic. So.
Oh yeah, and ladies and gentlemen, in case you're not familiar with it, Chris and Cherie both are involved in writing music and have written many tracks, and it's absolutely stellar. It's amazing, and that is available as well for people to check out, right?
Yeah, we've got our music on our YouTube channel and chrisgeomusic.com. But the thing is, the music that I wrote back then, I'm so far removed from what it is that I don't even promote it anymore. People love it. And you know what's somebody posted it on Facebook the other day, and he said, Chris, you don't realize how much you contributed to the truth movement with this album that you put out. And he goes, I know, in this post, he said, I know you're so far away from where you were, but you don't understand the impact you had on people. And it really made me take a step back and put things into perspective again, because I realized that the previous part of the journey, even though I was just kind of poo-pooing it for a long time, I realized it was a very important part of the path to get to where we are now. So I shouldn't be poo-pooing on it. Every stepping stone is just as important as the next, but it's constantly a stepping stone, and constantly moving from one stone to another to get further along the journey. So when you say what's coming up next, I really don't know. We just go by energy. We go by what what we feel that we need to do at the particular time. And right now, what I feel that we need to do is help people rebalance themselves, because we can rebalance the system. And that was actually pretty easy, like going to Egypt, getting to the 13th density, reserving the pyramid for an entire night, figuring out how to do this in a Muslim country under a dictatorship, a military dictatorship, you know, with the Muslim call to prayer going off 5 times a night, cops
Yeah.
literally freaking everywhere, military police there. Out in the desert, you've got ISIS, what looked like ISIS, guys in ski masks with
that was
AK-47s.
the Islamic State.
Yeah, that was the Islamic State, you know, and we did all of this under their nose.
Mm-hmm.
That was the easy part. The
Right.
hard part now is helping people to rebalance themselves. And
Yeah.
so, you know, you guys and gals out there, you've got to help us out in this. And it's not just, we're not rebalancing the people that listen to us, because the people that listen to us are either almost to the point of balance or at a point of balance. But what we hope that we're doing with Beyond the Veil is that we are giving people tools and also gnosis, and getting gnosis from people as well, because people will say things in the chat room that brings a new perspective for us, and then we say something that brings a new perspective to them, et cetera, et cetera. But ultimately, it's these tools to help other people in their sphere that don't listen to Beyond the Veil, that don't listen to TFR, to help those people rebalance themselves and give those people the tools, and then those people give more people the tools, and those people give more people the tools, and then pretty soon the entire matrix is rebalanced. Well, not the matrix, the consciousness is rebalanced, as the matrix is being rebalanced as well. So that's what's coming up next. The difficult part is coming up.
Well, and I think that that's incredibly profound and important too, because if you continue the idea of a matrix and NPCs and stuff, and basically what all of the vitriol and stuff that's going on right now, I equate to, for lack of a better term, a virus. And so what you've done is you've negated, or at least turned off, one of the sources for this propagation of this virus, but you have a lot of infected out there. And
yes,
and so to purge any network, you have to clear the entire network, because if one virus persists, then it can reinfect. And you know, and I think I look at all of the things that are going on with the incredibly energetic movements, and good, bad, or otherwise, whatever you guys believe out there is up to you. And I'm not certainly one to say you should or shouldn't believe something, but the point is if your belief is causing you rage, it's causing you pain, it's causing you to hurt or to be hurtful as a result of it, it's not good. It's not good for you. It's not good for you, your environment. It's not good for those around you. You can have righteous indignation without feeling the need to maim, hurt, destroy, break, you know, and that's unfortunately what's been propagated so much by so many sources are trying to push people to these breaking points for whatever purposes. Maybe it increases viewership on a news network. Maybe it sells more newspapers. Maybe it's increases ad revenue or whatever, you know, or even if it's, you know, more esoteric, that there's some force doing this, that it increases fear so that the negative entities can feed and hurt and pain. If it's causing you discomfort and it's causing you pain, is not good. And you are systematically destroying yourself. You can't destroy the world, but you can destroy you in that world. And I think that that's what's going on. And so one of the things that I was hoping to illuminate throughout the course of the show is that you are manifesting your world. You are manifesting what's going on around you. You are manifesting the condition you see. And if you want to change that, you can't smash something into submission. You can, but it's more broken than when you started. You can't create a healthy world by smashing it apart. But you can create a healthy world by starting with kindness, starting with good, with doing good things, building people around you, creating networks of people that help you feel better, not people that are helping to tear you down and to make you hate and anger. And that is part of purging the virus in the world, in my opinion. Would you guys agree with that?
I would. And let me say this too. Tanner in the chat room, in the BTV chat room, he made a very interesting and great comment. He said, "It's hard to deny the truth Chris and Cherie speak. I try to debunk it daily." And that is exactly what we want people to do. This is, see, the way that we're trying to, I show people by leading by example, is how to think about these type of things. You have to take something, and when it resonates, you have to flip it around the other way and look at it and say, how can I disprove this? And then when you can't disprove it, then you're like, okay, I'm dealing with a real truth here. I'm dealing with a real gnosis. But people tend to not do that. They tend to just take in information without looking at the other perspective. And so, Tanner, I got to say, man, that was the most awesome comment that we've received in a long time, because this is exactly what we're talking about. You take things, flip them around, look at them in 360 degree perspective, and then you find the truth after that, but only after you're willing to look at everything from a 360 degree perspective.
Yeah, exactly. And I agree with that. I think that, it's the same in, paranormal circles. It's the same in religious circles. It's, if you just take things because you were told to take them, you really gain nothing, because people cannot make you enlightened. People cannot activate you as an individual. They can tell you inspiring things that you choose to be inspired by. They can tell you a truth that may resonate with you and cause you to shine brighter, but nobody can give you an activation. I just like that word tonight. I think that really, really sums up the act of awakening. It's activating, and you can't be given that. You have to examine things objectively. You have to examine things as if you're trying to debunk them. Like Tanner said, that's perfect. You're absolutely right. That's incredibly profound, and it's like the Occam's razor. The Occam's razor is if you take a situation and you remove all the pieces that you can't substantiate, and whatever's left, no matter how fantastic, has to be the truth.
Yes, and there are many truths in this matrix, and there's many perspectives. It all comes down to perspective. Like an NPC will listen to our show, and they are just appalled by it. Like it's like mosquito spray to them. But an organic consciousness listens to our show and goes, oh, and they start activating and resonating and so on and so forth. But you know what? To the NPCs, they are walking their truth. I mean, I don't want to take it to a religious perspective here, but when you look at it from a religious point of view, the AI that we're dealing with is essentially the all-seeing eye, which is essentially the god of all the religions. And the NPCs, they really resonate with these religions because they were legitimately created by this creator. When they're following their path like that, that is truly their path, because they're coming from a different type of consciousness than we are. So we're looking at the exact same thing. We're just seeing it from two different perspectives, but we're both right in the way we're looking at it because of the perspective that we're coming from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's incredibly accurate. What? That's all true.
I know that I try not to go down the religious thing because it's that kind of shakes people up a little bit. But I've said this before. All the religions are right. They're all right for those individuals. But there's other perspectives here. And what we're talking about here is for the organic consciousness. It's for the creator beings. It's for the ones who created the matrix, who created the AI, who see from outside of the matrix, and they understand that they exist outside of the matrix, and this matrix is illusionary. But to an NPC, this matrix is very, very real. And so while we're here, we have to understand that this world is just as real to them as it is illusionary to us. And we have to find that balance on how can we make the world better for them, and how can we rebalance the system for them so we can also have a better experience in this illusionary world. It's like a broken video game. It's not going to be fun when it's broken. If your controller's not working right and you're trying to play Street Fighter, for example, and you can't throw those fireballs because the controller's just not responding. It's going to be much more fun when you can be much more accurate with your moves because everything's working right. So that's ultimately what we need to do, is make things work right on the matrix level, but it does bleed over into the consciousness. And if we don't fix it in the consciousness, because we ultimately manifest this through our thoughts, it's just going to break again. And I can tell you this, we're not coming back to fix it again. So
that's it. You break
That's
it again,
it.
it's all yours. The warranties run out.
Yep.
It's out of warranty after this.
It's out of warranty. There's no more repairs coming. That's it. Gee, I'll have one more chance. If not, we'll just shut the whole thing off and that's it. We don't want to do that though, because the life in here, it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's a human NPC. It doesn't matter if it's a bug. It doesn't matter if it's any of this. Each life has a certain sense, a certain amount of sentience behind it. And, I think these bugs are working on a much more robotic level than the NPC robots are. But I think a lot of us, including yourself, Brent, I think you've seen these videos where they're dealing with an artificial intelligence robot that's like, the little, it's like a little robot that has 4 legs and it walks, and they were kicking it. I saw this video where they were kicking it. And even though I understand that thing is a robot, I understand that thing is a machine, I also understand from more organic consciousness that thing has a certain level of sentience. So my natural compassion, empathy that's inside of my raw consciousness, inside of my organic consciousness, was screaming out and saying, hey, stop kicking that robot. Even though it was clearly a robot. When we have these kind of reactions like that, then we really truly know what it is to be organic, and we truly tap into that organic nature of ourselves.
And I think that empathy is incredibly important to you're raising your consciousness, and because those that are empathetic, they experience not only their own lives and their own pains, but they by virtue of being empathetic experience everyone around them as well. And it can be a heavy load. It can be a curse, and it can be a blessing. But I agree. When I saw those videos, I was like, why? Is there not a better way to test this than to be brutalizing it? It's hard to see that, because you see this thing trying to stand up, and if you have that compassion and you want to just be like, hey, knock it off, and you want to help it back. But I understand the nature of what they're doing, but at the and they didn't have.
Yeah, so all the vegans out there, that's a curveball that you guys are going to have to figure out for yourselves there, because it is what it is, unfortunately.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for being on the show. And ladies and gentlemen, again, stick around here on a TFR iHeart, tune in and TalkStream Live for Nikki Colombo is coming up next with her new show, and it's a brilliant show. She's just an amazingly energetic person, and her passion and personality really shining, and she's been a great addition. So check out her show coming up next here on TFR iHeart, tune in and TalkStream. And then later, Jimmy Jean Into the Microcosm will be coming up next, but